I'm heading out to Takamatsu city for a photo walk today. I'm just wondering, what lens should I take? 50mm? Classic focal length. But then again, what if I need reach? Maybe 85mm for portraits? Or a zoom for flexibility? 70-300 for those close-up architecture shots? But then again, which body? Maybe ZF for better autofocus, or ZFC for the size, or the X100s is a freeing camera. With its 23mm lens, which is a 35mm equivalent, you're not thinking about focal length anymore. There's no decision fatigue. There's no should I move in closer or zoom in paralysis. You just shoot. Obviously, it's a constraint, but constraints breed creativity. This is Niwaki, the art of shaping garden trees. This tree has been shaped for decades. Constrained, wired, pruned. Every branch deliberate. The limitation is the art form. Of course, some constraints are more challenging than others. Take the autofocus, for instance. It was already poor in 2013, where the camera first launched, but by today's standards, it's in crippling debt. Bankruptcy level autofocus. And the manual focus? Well, focus by wire is less intuitive than explaining cryptocurrency to your grandmother. So you adapt. You work with what the camera gives you. Like these sculpted pines. You work within constraints. You see, you can't force a tree to grow the way it doesn't want to. You work with it. You guide it. You accept its nature. So you restrict yourself to non-moving objects, street furniture, buildings, very polite stationary people. Restrictions breed creativity, right? Or at least that's what they say. Although now I'm spending my mental energy thinking what falls into my focus category and what doesn't. But that's not overthinking. Definitely not overthinking. But that's the beauty of the X100s. It's simple, uncomplicated. The perfect grab-and-go camera. You just grab it and go, right? Well, you grab the camera and some spare batteries because battery life is, well, intimate. You get to know it pretty well. Then you need the charger. And because USB charging was science fiction in 2013, you need a figure-of-8 cable to make the use of the charger. Which means you need a bag. And if you're bringing a bag, you might as well bring an extra camera or lens. You see where this is going. The camera is simple. The system around it requires infrastructure. The art of Niwaki requires specific tools, specific knowledge. You can't just use any shears, any wire, any technique. The simplicity of the final form requires precision in the process. So yes, the X100s is a grab-and-go camera. You just need to grab systematically, with preparation. Simplicity requires logistics. But once you're out here with everything you need, the X100s does something remarkable. It makes you invisible. Because it doesn't look like a serious camera, compact, retro, almost toy-like, people don't register you as a photographer. You become a ghost, non-threatening, just someone with a nice-looking camera. Like this garden, present but not intrusive. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't demand your attention, it simply exists as part of the landscape. And because it doesn't impose itself, people relax into it. They become themselves. But that raises questions, doesn't it? What is a candid moment? If somebody knows they're being photographed, even subconsciously, does their behavior change? The observer effect. Heisenberg uncertainty principle applied to street photography. The act of observation changing the... I'm doing it again. I'm overthinking the camera that's supposed to stop me from overthinking. These are important philosophical considerations, but... Right. Moving on. And when the day is done and you return home, workflow is beautifully simple. Import, edit, export, done. Well. The camera uses Fujifilm's X100s sensor. It's a very clever technology. It reduces moire without the need for an optical low-pass filter. It also has a complicated relationship with Lightroom. You see, you can't just sharpen normally. If you do, you get what's affectionately called the watercolor effect. Little artifacts, worms. Makes your images look like they were painted by a somewhat drunk impressionist. Instead, you sharpen using the detail slider cranked high, near 100, while keeping the amount slider low. So you're sharpening by not sharpening. Not in the traditional sense anyway. Use detail slider to sharpen and sharpening slider to not sharpen as much. It's very zen, very freeing. Once you've internalized the workflow that contradicts everything you know about image sharpening. But after that, very simple. Beautifully simple. Look, I've spent the last 6-7 minutes poking fun at this camera, and yes, the shortcomings are real. The autofocus lags behind. The battery life is absurd. Lightroom workflow is iffy at best. But here's the thing. I bought this thing in 2013 and it's still here. I've owned about 20 bodies since then. Film, digital, DSLRs, mirrorless. They all came and went. But this little bugger just stuck around so much, and I would have such a hard time getting rid of it. I have no words for it. Like this tree, like this garden, like a tea house and the ritual that it holds. Some things are just worth keeping. And these aren't bonsai, miniature decorations. These are niwaki, full-sized functioning trees. Yes, shaped through constraints, but still doing what trees do. Just like this camera. I've used it for documentary, travel, long exposures, landscape, architecture photography. Heck, I even brought it to client shoots because the widest lens I had at the time was 50mm and I needed something wider. And it delivered every single time. But you know what the best thing about it is? It gets out of the way. All that talk earlier about freedom, about not overthinking, there's some truth to it. It becomes an extension of your eye. Just like a sword becomes an extension of your arm in Bushido. Just like those trees become an extension of Gardner's vision. You stop thinking about the tool and you just see. And that is freeing. This camera is still in my stable and it will remain there until it no longer powers up, which, given its battery life, is probably another 20 minutes. So, is the X100s a freeing camera? Yes. But just like the trees in this garden, freedom comes with understanding of the constraints, working with them, not against them. This camera taught me that 12 years ago, and I'm still learning it today. Oh, one more thing about the hybrid viewfinder. Still here? Well, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, that. Or just bugger off.